When I first laid hands on this green S20 case, when I first laid hands on this S22, the first thing that I noticed was the build quality. This is iPhone level build quality. The things that you notice instantly about this phone are the texture on the back, how it doesn't necessarily fingerprint, but it feels premium, like all over. The metal rounded edges, the extremely tight tolerances, there's no flex whatsoever. Like none of these things are present on the Pixel 6. The Pixel 6 has a lot of seams, it does flex a little bit, and it definitely doesn't have these nice edges. And that's right, I'm comparing this S22 to the Pixel 6 because I picked this up off Amazon for the exact same price as a Pixel 6. The link for where I found this on Amazon is listed below, right next to that like button. Let's compare these two mid-range flagship devices. I feel like there's a clear winner here, but there's also one major concern. App developers like myself avoid owning Samsung hardware, and not because Samsung makes bad hardware. Samsung heavily tweaks the underlying Android operating system, and a lot of times that causes crashes and UI jank that otherwise just wouldn't have happened if Samsung left things alone. And if you don't believe me, search for Android and Samsung on Stack Overflow, a website where bugs and issues can be tracked and devs can help each other out. There are just a ton of issues specific to Android and Samsung. It's not all bad. Samsung added this little briefcase icon in the far bottom right-hand corner of the screen whenever I'm using a work app. That's something that stock Android just doesn't do that I think is very tasteful in this case. But on the other end too, there's missed details, like how the folder icon on the desktop doesn't fill up with app icons when the folder itself is not full. It would be nice if the system was smart enough to capitalize on that blank space. When I initially set up this S22, the battery drain was a huge concern for me. The first 3 days of using this device, I would fall critically low by 3/4 of the way through the day. And that 25-watt quick charge that this device is capable of didn't necessarily make me feel any better. I would expect a device like this in this price range to last me all day. Then after a week, magically, the battery started lasting longer and longer. And now the S22 has about 50% juice at the end of the day. Samsung, this is super sketchy. What's really going on here? And out of the box, the Pixel 6 will just get you a full day's battery. There were no obvious differences depending on usage or from the time when I initially set up the phone. No shady battery shenanigans. And because of that, I was convinced the Pixel 6 would be my daily driver. After all, I owned and used practically every single Pixel since the beginning. And that's where I was wrong. The Pixel 6 Fingerprint Reader just drove me to return it after I realized no matter how many times I entered my fingerprint, even in duplication, as some forms would suggest, I always struggled to unlock the Pixel the first time. I was always reattempting. I hop onto my phone for quick actions. I don't play a lot of games, so maybe that's why I noticed. But after dozens of times throughout the day struggling with unlocking specifically, I just felt like this was a lot more work than any Pixel that came before it. And when the Pixel decided to move away from the tried and true rear-facing fingerprint reader, I felt like that was a really bold choice. But you know, you trust that it's going to be an iteration in the right direction, but unfortunately in this case it was not. A lot of comments in my previous Pixel 6 videos said I was wrong about how I judged the Pixel 6. But then on top of that, I also saw comments about people sharing my frustrations. I'm really wondering if there's just a bad batch of Pixel 6s floating around out there, affecting some and not others. Now, as a phone assistant, which is really important to me, the Pixel 6 is still the clear winner to me. The Google Assistant integration on Pixel 6 is just phenomenal. The voice-to-text features, the ability to update shopping lists or set reminders for now or location-based, whatever you end up wanting, the Pixel 6 just comes built from the ground up as an assistant. I tell it to add an item to my shopping list, and it does. Now, the S22 comes loaded with an assistant as well, known as Bixby. It is not nearly as polished or capable as Google's Assistant, and it's definitely trying. Whereas on the Pixel 6, I could wake the phone with a voice command. That's just not going to happen here with the S22. It doesn't exist. But there are ways that you can add Google Assistant to this S22. Will it be as seamless? No. But it'll still give you those abilities. I do wish Samsung would have taken it to the next level there as far as customizations. In the settings, for instance, if I long press this power button here, I can set it to either give me the power controls or invoke Bixby. And Samsung actually did one worse there. They made it so that Bixby was the only option in some cases. There's no third option to choose whichever assistant you have installed, which I find frustrating because the double click of the power button gives you access to whatever app you want. If you want it to open the camera, it'll do that. If you want it to open something else, you can map it. I found this immensely lame, Samsung. If I could just map to the Google Assistant here, I think I would have scored you a lot higher in that regard. For now, I have the Google Assistant actually just installed as an app on the desktop, and I just click it and it opens up like it naturally does on the Pixel 6. I even found that the widget, the search widget that you could put on the desktop, does not open the Google Assistant. It takes you to a Chrome search instead. It seems to me that both Google and Samsung have taken measurable steps here to wall off the assistant part of their functionalities. Now, I'll probably be able to correct most of these issues with a custom home screen launcher, but as you may know, that's a lot of work to set up. It's definitely not something you just casually do, in an hour or so. It takes a while to really get something like that set up. But I will say that the Samsung OS, this One OS, is really polished. It felt good. Everyday usage has just been really great overall. It's just those few shortcomings that I know Google and Samsung are kind of resisting each other on. And I feel like the consumer ends up losing in that situation. Okay, so let's just do a quick breakdown of the hardware. The Pixel 6 feels a lot more budget than I think it should at this price point. And even when compared to previous generation Pixels, it falls short. The S22, however, is undeniably more premium feeling than the Pixel 6. It doesn't flex, it's smooth on the corners all the way around, and I just feel like from a seams perspective, it'll hold up really well in a submerged test. It certainly has less seams on it than the Pixel 6. Speaking of water, most of the Pixels I have owned have actually perished due to water damage, and that's just because I like the outdoors. I like to hike, get caught in bad weather pretty frequently. And I have returned from several camping trips with burnt out Pixels. I've burnt out a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Thankfully, the 4 dried out after about a week, and the 3 at the time was just so cheap that I just bought another. Now, Google has claimed some amount of water resistance with most of the Pixel line, but I just feel like, and through my personal experience, have found that the devices do eventually lose that water rating just from normal everyday use. Now, in comparison, I feel like this S22 will hold its water rating for quite a number of years to come, and that's because of the lack of seams and how tightly fit all of these components are. And the S22 Fingerprint Reader is incredible. It's twice, if not 3 times faster than the Pixel 6, and it doesn't shine a bright white light at me while it's scanning. Just everything about it compared to the Pixel 6 is better. And it works with wet fingerprints for when you get stuck on a wet outdoor adventure. The S22 is the clear winner when it comes to build quality. Now over to software, the Pixel 6, when compared to the Samsung S22, I feel like from a software perspective, we're actually getting pretty close. Samsung allows for more customization, while the Pixel 6 has better Google Assistant integration. Obviously. But Samsung also does some weird shenanigans with the battery. And my absolute biggest concern with Samsung recently is that they were just hacked. All the source code for the operating system in this phone is now available for attackers. And I just don't know if this phone is safe for use anymore. That doesn't exactly make me feel warm and fuzzy. Most of my digital life is on this device. Now, we can definitely say some negative things about the stock Android 12 experience on the Pixel 6, but one thing we have always been able to say is that Google puts security first. Security is baked into everything that Google does, and security can bring down an entire company. And Samsung wants you to sign up for all of their special Android custom integrations, one of which is the Samsung password autofill service. Yeah, there are probably millions of people out there right now using Samsung's autofill password management system and have no idea that this hack has occurred and that maybe their information and sensitive data is at risk. And because this operating system has now been compromised, those passwords may have been as well. Most consumers don't know that you can actually go into the deep settings on these devices and switch over to different password autofill services. That's something that I do when I set up this phone. I much prefer using Google's password management system because they run the largest web browser in the entire world. Of course, I'm going to want a seamless login experience across all my devices. And I think that's what my major concern is with the software on the S22, is that you need experienced, deep-level knowledge of the Android system in order to make those appropriate updates, in order to feel like this is still a seamless everyday device. I'm gonna seriously have to spend a few days thinking about whether or not this hack on Samsung is going to impact whether or not I keep this device long term. Now, with the prices of these two devices, the Pixel 6 and the S22 being identical, it's hard to not draw lines between the two and compare them. And that's kind of why I decided to dig into these two today. I do feel that the S22 has the better build. I don't really care about how it looks, it functions well, and it feels premium. I cannot say that about the Pixel 6. Now, as far as software though, that's where things start to get a little bit more fuzzy. We have to worry about the hack on Samsung and the operating system, whether or not this has integrity anymore. But also, there was the Fingerprint Reader issue on the Pixel 6 that made it really frustrating to use over and over and over again. So these are the kinds of things that we just have to decide on and make those choices, whether or not you are comfortable making all those deep system tweaks in order to get the features you want out of this phone, or just the natural Android experience with Google. I wish there was a clear winner here when it came to comparing the software between these two devices. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm wondering if we really should be concerned about this hack or not. Which device are you leaning towards and why? I hope you enjoyed this review of the S22, and I look forward to connecting with you later.